Namaste viewers, thanks for joining today's live Q&A session on Hinduism. My name is Manish Solanki and welcome to today's program. Today's special topic is serving humanity, serving God. So as most of you know, the format, we'll play the video on this topic and then we'll take questions and answers on this topic, and then we'll open it up for viewers' question and answers towards the latter half of the program. So let's go to the video and see today's video. I'll share my screen.
Okay, look, one of the best things that came from my mentor is this. He said, it is nice to focus on a God in the heaven, Vishnu, Shiva, Mother Goddess, and go into temples and worship her or worship him, but nothing wrong. That is the way you unfold spiritually. It suits your temperament perfectly fine. But the modern evolved face of Hinduism says, my friend, grow up. The God that you are searching for is not sitting in heaven or in the temple. He is in front of your eyes, shining through the eyes of every living thing you come across. Every living thing. It is, if you like, the thing that is actually appearing as living thing through all these different forms is nothing but your God. The same one God sparkling in the eyes of every living thing. So whenever you see other human beings, look, this is the trick. And I do it myself. I'm not just boasting. When I see other human beings, I light up. I don't know why. I light up. I like to interact with them. Even they want to avoid me. I love you. I must talk to you. And what are you doing? I just see God in humanity. In fact, 2 days back, I was asked to do Aarti at one of these temples. And I was turning my back while I was doing Aarti. And the supervisor didn't like it. Mr. Lakhani, face that way. Because I was telling myself, my God is not in the image there. It is in human beings sitting behind me. So I was turning my back and looking at them, and the supervisor didn't like that. This is the message of Vivekananda. See and serve God in humanity. If modern India, or modern world, adopts this idea, we see a different world, different vision of religion or spirituality. Look, you will live more fully. Try it. I'm telling you from experience. Live fully by just interacting with greater humanity. You see the magic. You love it. You live more intensely. When you curtail yourself, limit yourself, and hide in the corner and say, me and my family, and I eat and drink and I'm happy and look at good big house. Nothing. You are mean. You are narrowing your potential. Expand. See yourself with other human beings. See and serve God in humanity. Then you live more fully. You enjoy life more. I'm telling you from experience. You live life more fully. You enjoy it more intensely than you could ever imagine.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
So what a wonderful topic, and lovely to see Jay by video talking about his favorite topic, service to humanity. Sita Ben, start off. Please introduce the topic. What a wonderful thing Jay Bhai said. Please elaborate on it.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and I know from my own experience with Dad just how true it is what he was saying. His love for people, it's very evident. He would just literally, he would go out into the shops and buy loads of chocolates and stuff his pockets full of chocolate. Whenever he sees any child on the street, he will just pull it out and give it to them, and then he would start talking to them. And then I had to say, Dad, please be careful. The parents will think, who are you? They don't know who you are, and people are so worried these days about that kind of thing. But he just had such a love for people, and especially children. And what he's saying is so true, because you do live more fully, when you're sort of interacting with everyone around you, because you're seeing yourself in others. And that's the most beautiful way that we can live. If we sort of hide in a corner and sort of try and ignore the rest of humanity. We're living in a very small and mean way, and it really shows that even though it's written in the scriptures that there is Brahman, Atman, we have this concept of divinity in everyone, but what's the point if it's just lying in a book? Why not actually try and experience it for ourselves? And that's so much Dad's whole life was like that, basically. So sorry, Vijay.
No, absolutely true. I think the idea of seeing God in humanity is, I mean, Jay Bhai used to talk about it a lot. Every time we discuss, we talk about that. But, if you look at reading the biography of Swami Vivekananda as well, that message comes through again and again and again. I mean, you can think about this. So while I know we all believe in a God in the heavens, but the question is, you spend more time and more energy believing in a God in the heaven that you cannot see, and ignore the God which is living among, which you can see, but you're ignoring him. And that's the kind of paradox. And I think the great seers of India, I mean, look at Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and Jay Bhai, of course, in a way, is descendant of that kind of lineage. You see that the idea of seeing God in humanity is the true living God. Of course, he plays in multitude of ways. So he can be mean, he can be funny, he can be silly. Yet that idea of seeing God in the living kind of kingdom is kind of the best way to serve humanity. And of course, Hindus have no problem because we do believe that the idea of the Atman is everywhere, in every living thing is Atman. So for us, it comes naturally. We don't have to work hard for it. We know that everybody is divine. So all you do is just to cultivate that idea that worship God in humanity. That's always been the message of Jay Bhai. And I think in this day and age, let's face it, a lot of people are moving away from a God in the heavens because they think, what is God doing? Let's take it on ourselves to serve humanity. Let's do it ourselves. And you can do it, the best way to do that is actually seeing God in humanity. And how do you see that God in humanity? You interact with him, that living God. You interact, and the more and more you interact, the more and more you feel as Jay Bhai charged up, and the more and more you see divinity around you. Manish bhai.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai, Sita Ben. Wonderful start there. So we see in many religions, actually, it's considered blasphemy to compare God to living things and humans. And here we are proclaiming service to humanity, service to God. Wonderful statement by Swami Vivekananda. Is there any scriptural basis to this, or is this something new that Swami Vivekananda thrown in, Vijay Bhai?
No, actually, it's in the scripture authority. I don't have to say this. If you look at any Upanishad you open now, the entire Upanishads, they talk about how enlightened we are. If you open, like, when we teach in GCSE, we teach the Mundak Upanishad, and say that the Atman is based on the light, is pure, is in the form of pure light, is a form of, all-knowing. The description given to the Atman, which every living thing endows, is nothing but the supreme reality itself. So it's not that I'm saying it. It's been there since day one in the Hindu scriptures. And but thing is, I think quite often we get distracted from the authority, the true scripture authority, distracted. I think Swami Vivekananda again made a big effort to bring that out. You'd be surprised, if you read the biography of Swami Vivekananda, it wasn't that easy for him to get that message across. Even there have been, if you look at his biography, there's some examples. Even his own, guru, what do you call it? His guru brothers, his own chelas. Some were saying, you know what? Ramakrishna was always with Mahakali. He was praying to the Mahakali, and you're doing bhakti. We shouldn't worry if you think of our own moksha. We should do the same. We should actually focus on bhakti. Why go and do all this, going out and service humanity? How will ever do bhakti? And how will ever achieve moksha ourselves? And we're going to be really stern and firm. No, your living God is out there. Go and serve him. And he actually worked really hard. It was not easy because people are always somehow feeling that we want to look at God in the heavens to help us out. And he goes, no, don't do that. And I think he actually could see and feel that joy and pain of every human being. But the message comes from the actual scripture of authority, the ancient scriptures of the Hindus, the Upanishads. It's always been there. The question is, are we taking it seriously? Are we cultivating that particular message? See that?
Sorry. Yes, I mean, it's been in our scriptures for thousands of years. I mean, it's so evident in, in the four, for example, the four Mahavakyas like Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, all of them are pointing to this concept that God is within us and within everything in the entire universe. So it's not a new concept. The thing that people like Swami Vivekananda have done is bring it to the fore, explain it to us in English, in a language that we understand, that is accessible to the whole of humanity. Because if it's lying in some dusty old Sanskrit verses in an old book in the library, no one is going to know about it. So we need people like Swami Vivekananda to bring it out to the marketplace, make it accessible and real for everybody. And I think the wonderful thing is it's something that we can try and experience for ourselves. It's not just some theory which sounds nice and it's nice fluffy words. It's actually something that you can try and do for yourself. And probably one of the most sort of practical ways that we can do so is through the path of Karma Yoga, which is the path of selfless action, going out there in the community and trying to remind yourself, check yourself in saying, I'm not doing this because I just want to look good to everybody. I'm not doing this for my own sense of pride and ego. I'm doing it with a genuine purpose of wanting to help and not caring what the result is. Suppose somebody else takes credit for all your hard work. You should be able to be at the point where you say, I don't care. All I've done is at least I've sort of sown the seeds of goodness in the world. And that's all that matters. And you live such a beautiful and free life. When you're kind of living with that kind of attitude, you're no longer a slave. You're not holding out your hand to people saying, what do you think of me? Do you think I'm a nice person? How many likes can I get on my Instagram? It's not like that anymore. It's a case of, I have a responsibility to do something good. I don't care if people recognize it or don't recognize it. I'm doing it just to sort of sow some seeds of good actions in the world. And that is exactly what Swami Vivekananda spent his entire life doing. He was, his whole body was riddled with disease, but he went out there selflessly pouring out this message of spirituality without any sort of qualms about what do people think about me? Am I going to get lots of banners in my name? He didn't care about any of that. He was just there to present this message of spirituality, which is impacting us to this day and hopefully will continue to for hundreds of years.
How wonderful answers from you, Jaiba and Sitaben. So Sitaben mentioned 4 Mahavakyas, and 2 of them are Ayam Atman Brahman and Pragnanam Brahman. And both of these, if we see all the living things, we say all of them are Atman in a way, and they are all conscious, and Pragnanam Brahman is consciousness, is Brahman. So why limit to just humanity? I mean, all living creation, living beings. Why not expand it to all, or should we be focusing on humanity only, Sitaben?
I know it's a very, very true point, because all the entire living kingdom, and not even just the living kingdom, the entire universe, with all of the sort of planets and stars and trees and flowers, everything is Brahman essentially. And you hear these, people who have reached that point of enlightenment, and they actually see everything as being this manifestation of spirit, whether it's living or non-living, whatever it is. And, I think Dad has mentioned a few times, everything looks like candy floss, everything looks sweet, everything looks beautiful. When you're not enlightened, everything looks yucky and dirty, and there's pebbles and mud, and it's all yucky and dirty and messy world. But when you reach that point of enlightenment, everything appears sweet and beautiful, because that is actually what it is. This very crass material world that we all observe and are part of is actually an appearance. It's not actually like that. It's actually divine and beautiful and sweet. And we have to sort of count our lucky stars if we ever get a glimpse of that kind of an experience. And the thing is, when we sort of are part of the human kingdom, we're lucky, because compared to other living things which sort of operate at the level of instinct, and all they can really think about is like, where can I get my food? Where can I get shelter? They think about these kinds of things. But when we enter the level of the human kingdom, we've got an extra ability, this ability of rationality and intellect to try and make sense of the world around us. And without that, you know, we wouldn't have all the comfortable amenities that we have in our life at the moment. But what spirituality is saying is go even beyond the level of intellect, go to the level of intuition, because when you reach the level of intuition, you can get a whole deeper a level of awareness of the universe, which your intellect can never even conceive of. So yes, we are all at the level of intellect, but our spiritual progress would mean that if we can take that leap and become super aware, super conscious, then we can experience the beauty of the world in its truest sense. Vijay?
Yeah, Manishpa, I mean, it's very true. The idea of the Mahavakyas you mentioned. I mean, it's so amazing to me, at least, that as Sita elaborated just now, it's so amazing that, you know, we take the four Vedic scriptures we have, the Rig Veda with 10,000, I think Yajur about 5,000, then Psalm is 3,000, I think, and Atharva is about 8,000 verses. For the ancient archers to pick just these four Mahavakyas, which actually talk about divinity, humanity, or the idea of Brahman and pure consciousness, it just shows that how deep understanding that there was. So it is clearly obvious that great men rishis have experienced this idea of divinity, within ourselves. So it's not something we make believe, otherwise it will just be repeated again and again. So it's obvious that it is there out there. This Brahman is shining out in all living things. And you know, sometimes we take living things for granted. But as Jaybai mentioned, living things are not that easy, because think about it, you're fighting the elements. Something that fights the elements and still thrives and succeeds, that requires a very special power in us. The weather, drought, all this, and yet fighting the struggle and thrive, trying to come out, trying to make ourselves shine. There's a true idea of actual divinity, in a sense. So of course, I think if we take that idea a bit step further, then it actually makes us much better environmentalists. We look after the earth much better, because we will see divinity everywhere. So of course, humans are kind of the first level for us, because they're like us and highly evolved in that sense. But if you extend the idea to other living things, then we'll be much more cautious on how we do the environment, how we farm, how we produce our, how we eat our diet. Everything will change, because we'll be much more conscious of the idea of divinity. So in many ways, the idea of serving, not only God in humanity, but serving the divine everywhere is so special, because it change our whole outlook in life. And I think in a way, the whole world will become a better place. So these are very profound ideas. If implemented, they can do tremendous service to humanity.
So true, Vijay. Where do we start? It's wonderful idea and we love it. The whole creation is Brahman, teeming with Brahman. Brahman kind of is pervading the whole universe in a way. But where do we start? How do we get started on this? If we think about it, then we think about, we should be getting into the charities and, doing massive projects. How do we begin on this journey?
Okay, so I think Manishpa, it's a bit hard initially, because we live in such a material world. We've been trained to consume. If you don't consume, the economy does not run. So it's all like a quite challenge. But I think we start small steps. I mean, I try that when I go in the train in the morning. I say, okay, 5 minutes, I won't see fellow travelers as fellow travelers. I'll try and see them as divine beings. But after 5 minutes, I forget immediately. So you can start small. I think even if you go environment, when you see the trees, don't just see them as trees. See them as something divine, and start slowly. But it's such a tough job, because we live in a world which is always geared towards, crass materialism. Which is what Jaybai has been telling us again and again and again. Yeah, this is what we have to overcome. But if we start just the small steps, little steps, then I think we can make progress slowly. But it's a tough job. I mean, I don't think it can be easy if once you set your mind to it, but it's one of those things that humanity's progress. But I have a feeling it'll be forced like that, because we can't ignore the environment any longer, because there's water shortage, there's going to be food shortage, there's going to be a lot of problems in the world. We can't avoid looking at environment in a different way. We'll be forced to see the environment as something more special than just pure, therefore our consumption. It'll happen regardless. Well, let's see. I don't know how the dice will roll, but Sita.
But yeah, I completely agree with that. If we start looking at everything in the universe, not as just crass matter, but we see that there is something deeper there, we can start making some kind of progress. And another really sort of wonderful way to start, because it seems like a very overwhelming task. Like, where do you begin with this kind of journey? And the Bhagavad Gita obviously gives us 4 pathways that we can choose to follow, and we can choose a mixture of different pathways based on our temperament. So you may love God with form, and for you, maybe going out in the community doesn't appeal to you so much, and that's okay. For you, maybe it's just showing tremendous love for that particular form of God, and you make progress in that way. By making that kind of progress, you start seeing the unity behind all this diversity. Same with Karma Yoga, you come to the same conclusion, you see that unity behind the diversity. And Raj Yoga, the most difficult path, if you dare to even try it, again, you see this beautiful unity. And I think I was just reading some of the works of Swami Vivekananda this week, and he said, no matter what pathway that you choose, all of us, if you are genuinely making spiritual progress, you actually get some sort of physiological changes which happen in your spine. No matter what pathway it is that you take, there is this sort of coiled up energy called the Kundalini. And when you are able to sort of tap into that energy, you start getting this tremendous ability to see this unity. It's not some nice fluffy thing to say anymore, it's an experience. So no matter what way you choose, you will all get to the same destination in the end.
That's wonderful answer, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. So getting started on the path, is it a good idea to start with your own family first? Although most of us, look after the family, but how we treat our family, our parents, our children, our partner, is that a good place to start? And should we be limiting ourselves to the family, which is a big question, because most of us do, I think, live our lives for the family. But should we be stopping there, Sita Ben?
No, of course not. So obviously that's a great starting point. They're the people who are closest to you. You're living with them. You spend a great deal of time with them. So we take sort of small steps. When we are living in that family environment, we try our best to always put the needs of those around you before your own, in a very sort of simple way. It's kind of like training your mind to say, no, even though I'm hungry, I'm going to make sure that my child is fed first. It's that kind of thinking where you put the needs of others before yourself. And we start off in this very sort of small way, but then we can't just restrict it to our family, because as Dad has said many times, then what's the difference between us and animals? Animals also kill themselves for their children. We have to expand. We are at the level of human beings. So we can't just look after our own tiny little family and look after it. It's very all well and good to do that. But we have the opportunity as human beings to see further, to see beyond that. So then we start maybe by looking after the community, looking after our colleagues in the workplace. It starts with very sort of small, easy steps to achieve. And sometimes half the time, when you're walking around on the street and, you see somebody who needs a bit of help, like you see a mum with a pram and she's trying to get her massive pram up the stairs, try and help her out. Just small, small things. We start with seeing around us, being more aware of people around us and not just thinking about me and, oh, I'm getting late for work and this and that. Look around you and see what needs doing. And that's how we take small steps and hopefully expand our vision beyond that. Vijay?
I think, Sita, it's very true. These little steps, but I tell you how hard it is. I'll give you an example that I experienced once. I was in shopping in Sainsbury's, right? And there was a person who actually was stealing stuff, just food. And they got caught by the guards. And she's just stealing sandwiches, nothing big, sandwiches and food, yeah. And I just looked, and suddenly somebody appeared from somewhere, and the police are about to take her away and take her out of the shop. And one person just said, "Look, stop! I'll pay for her shopping," right? And I thought, why didn't I think of that, right? It's not just cost a few pounds, but that's the way to start seeing things. Humanity is divine. Doesn't matter what they've done. Then your mindset starts changing slowly, and then you interact more, in a more better way. Of course, First of all, your family has to be, you see your family first. If you have the argument with your family, you won't be seeing anything nice out there. So you can start with the family, obviously. But once you do that, then you go out. And the interesting thing, you notice that some of the great spiritual giants of India, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, or if you look at even Jalaram, who's very famous in Gujarat, the dynamics between the family of husband and wife of pure divinity, the way you teach each other divinity, then it's natural for them to expand outwards because they've already solved that problem within themselves. They can see it outside. So of course, it's important that in your own family you start see people respect, dignity. Then of course you can expand further and then expand further and further. But little things you can do, as Sita mentioned, like you're taking a plane up a chair, which I have done a couple of times. But other things, some even very small things. If somebody's arguing in the park, what can you do to help out? Then if you start, and not because you will just be a goody-goody, but because you see your own divine nature being reflected in them. So you should be doing it as a service, not because it makes, like because you're clever or something. So if you do it, like as I mentioned, a selfless action, there's small steps you can start to kind of make the world a better place.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben, Vijay Bhai. So one question is, many people, it's very hard for them. It's hard to believe, especially if it's in your tradition. If we are divine, how come we don't feel it? It's like, eating, drinking, barfing, and don't feel divine at all. How do we make that leap where we can believe that this is true? Vijay Bhai.
It takes some effort because I think as Sita was saying, we live in such a crass, materialistic world. Yeah, I mean, even because of survival, humans basically need to survive. We tend to gather things, we tend to eat, drink, and burp, survive, we do all this. But the question is, how do you change that idea and see, look, actually, there's more to us. The key thing is to figure out that there's more to us than just eating, drinking, and burping. As Jay said all the time, we want to cross it. How do you realize there's more than that? I think at some point, everybody will feel that. And when you feel that, then it's okay, look, it's now about time I start looking at higher questions. But one thing I must mention is that sometimes even when you're enjoying yourself, like, when I've been to a couple with friends, with bars, when they're laughing and feeling happy and jolly, in many ways you feel there's something more. You feel nice, don't you? But why do you feel that nice? There's something more to you than just this, this body made of elements. And even there, at the starting point, it doesn't say, don't do this, don't do this. Go and enjoy, go and interact with people. But at some point, try and figure out why it's so special. Why do you enjoy so much? What is so special about you? In all walks of life, in all kind of activities you do, they can get glimpses of your better nature, higher nature than yourself. And that's the key puzzle. But I think on day-to-day life, because we're so busy, we do a lot of other things, we do work, we study hard, we tend to forget that there's something more to us than this body. And that's the trick. So it just takes some effort, yeah? Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, we're so tied down to the body that we don't even realize that there is anything beyond the body. Everything that we sort of experience in the world, it's all sort of tied down to, we're kind of, if we look inside our body, it's full of wires, there's all sorts of capillaries and veins and this neuron firing and this and that. And we can't experience anything in the physical world without these wires in sort of tangling us up in a way, tying us down to the world around us. If I want to eat an ice cream, all the taste receptors then send messages to my brain. It's all wires everywhere. And we think that that's all there is to our human existence. All there is just this kind of physical sensations and experiences. But when we start beginning to make spiritual progress, we find that actually we don't need to rely on all these wires to help us experience things. Actually, when you're not using those wires, that is when you start to experience life more fully, when you're not reliant on this receptor sending a message to this receptor. It's all sort of controlled and confined. But when you're not reliant on those wires anymore, that is when you experience things so much more fully. And that is why when people like Sri Ramakrishna, when they see the Mother Goddess, they say, I see the Mother Goddess more clearly than I can see you. When you're relying on this extra sensory perception, you experience things so much more fully than if you do with your normal little physical eyes with their little messages and wires going around in our body, you experience more fully. And that is exactly, I think, what Vijay was saying, is when you meet your friends, it's not reliant on, you're saying this particular thing to your friend, or you're asking how they are. It's not the sort of the little things like that. It's that sensation of being connected with other people in a very sort of, not in a physical basis, but there's something deeper there. And that's what we're trying to tap into through our spiritual progress, I guess.
Wonderful to hear. We get a YouTube boss saying we are nothing but divisions of the infinite God, but Maya, material nature, gets us attached to it. So it is basically a test, I believe. Yes, I guess I would agree with that. The question, a new question from on the topic: how does this belief in divinity, divine nature of humanity influence Hindu practices, Sitaben?
I think it's actually very grounding to have this sort of perception or understanding that there is more to us than matter, because if we are just matter, it's actually a pretty depressing state of existence, just to know that we are all just lumps of matter interacting with other lumps of matter. And it makes you think, what's the point in doing anything if we're just lumps of matter and we're just going to disintegrate at the end of the day and there's nothing left? But somehow intuitively, we all seem to know, consciously or unconsciously, that there is something more to us. And I know Dad has used this example many times, that, suppose, you see somebody overcoming challenges and adversities. Even the crassest atheist may be inclined to say, oh, that's the spirit. And then you turn around to the atheist and you say, hang on there, you don't believe in anything more than the physical world. What do you mean by that? And Dad always said, does that mean is the only spirit you believe in is the spirit that comes in bottles? What do you mean that's the spirit? So intuitively, if you call yourself an atheist or not, somehow we seem to think or have an intuition that there is more to us than the physical body, even though we may consciously try and deny it. All of us seem to have this sort of understanding at an unconscious level, even, that there is more to us than the physical body. Vijay Bhai?
I think absolutely true. I think it doesn't matter, even if you're a very staunch atheist, at some point you will feel that, is there more to us than this, than the body or the universe? And I think there are some who say they're very sure. But I remember going to some of the talks with Jaiva, and when they asked a lot of these four atheists, well, we believe the idea there's something something divine in us, but not necessarily a God out in the heavens. I think that's a challenge that most people have. There are some, of course, who are very strict atheists, and they say, that's it, my body, I'm a lump of matter, and that's it. But vast majority of them even tend to believe that there's something more. The key thing is how to identify that. And for Hindus, I would say that we already have, as Sita mentioned, very good grounding already, because idea of dharma, ahimsa, the idea of selfless action, karma. So we already have the tools in place. But unfortunately, most of the Hindus, sorry to say, are too busy making money, too busy trying to gather material wealth, to look at the profound tools we have. In a way, we're very lucky, because we are not just being told, oh, you must worship the God in the heavens. If you don't, this will happen. Nothing like that. We're told, follow your dharma, practice ahimsa, do selfless action. All these tools, even without really looking for the answer, if you do it genuinely with a true heart, the idea of divinity just automatically appear. You don't even have to work for it. Just do these basic things and just come in front of you. So we're very lucky in that sense. But of course, it requires us to make the effort and do the practice.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben, Vijay Bhai. So in Mahabharata, there is this story of a hunter and a great sati as well. The story is called something Gita, Pardi Gita, or and in that one, the hunter actually is serving his parents really well, and a particular person, women, she was serving her husband very well, and they attained this God experience through his service. So can we focus on just few people and make this as a kind of real karma yoga practice, Vijay?
Absolutely. I mean, no matter who you can serve and serve lovingly with selflessly, because ultimately you're serving the divine. I think this is something that we all of us need to really understand. It's a very powerful message of Swami Vivekananda. When you're serving somebody, I'll give you a simple example. Okay, we believe in a God in the heavens, we do all that. Yet you see suffering in front of you. No matter how many hours you spend, no matter how much of an expert you are, a kathakar, you're super, reader, you're super, doing bhajans every day, you spend hours at temple. But at the doorstep, there's somebody who's struggling and starving. You think that God in the heavens will even care what you say, no matter how many hours you spend? He won't come in front of you, right? This is a fact. So if you cannot serve the person who's struggling outside, whether it's your wife or your husband, or in this case you mentioned parents, if you can't even serve your parents, I can tell you, I can't give names, but I know of examples like that who are very active in the temple because they feel like they're in power, whatever. Yet the parents are struggling at home. It doesn't even require a lot of logic. It doesn't require any kind of brains to think. If it is God in the heavens, will he be happy you worshiping him or worshiping your first God? Actually, we say Pelu Vandan, we say it's Mata Pitana. We say first Vandan is actually to your parents, second one is to your Guru, actually third one is to your God. Funny enough, is even behind, because Guru is the one who gives you knowledge. Actually, God says, I am third, right? Your parents are the first and stuff. So in fact, it's not that, it's actually part of Hindu teaching. You're living God, if you serve that God, then the other God will be more eager to come and see you. Others he won't come and see you. So I think we need to get our kind of our priorities right, so to say. So I agree with you, Manish Bhai. I can see why they got moksha first, but they understood that serving humanity is much more important. Look, that the God in heaven, he's all-knowing, all-powerful. He doesn't need our help in a way, right? But he wants to see us helping others so that he can be happy and at peace. It's like, when your children do really well, they help others, you feel good, you feel really good, don't we? So of course, if it's God in the heavens, he makes it the same. So let's please him by serving his own image or his own, divinity in human beings and all life, basically. That's the way to go. I mean, that's what I think. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think the whole point of any of our sort of spiritual endeavors is to sort of rub away at that sense of self, who, thinking how important I am, or, how good I am. Forget all about that. It's all about serving others. And when you sort of rub away your sense of pride and ego, your sense of self, that is when you begin to make genuine spiritual progress. And it may be, your life circumstances are that you can't come across many people. Maybe you just don't have access to the wider community, and as demonstrated in these stories in the Mahabharata, for example. And maybe you just have contact with your parents or just your husband or whoever it is. If you're able to put them first in every available opportunity, that is making spiritual progress as well. So anything which robs away that sense of self is really tremendous spiritual progress. It's a lot easier said than done, but we all have to try.
That's wonderful to hear, Sitaben Vijay. So Judge for YouTube has asked one question about this. He's saying the big conflict of helping humanity is when people around you are the main cause of the problems. People want to get funny with you, yes. Yet there is a wall that you face when you want to be compassionate. And as Jaibai used to say, is the living God kicks back. That is the main difference. So how do we deal with this kind of situation? It's never that easy. I think it's really hard actually to serve the people around you in a way. Sitaben?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And it's so true, because humanity is just, the way people are is unpredictable. That's just the nature of the world and the nature of people. And the challenge is, how can you still have that tremendous faith and love in wanting to help these people who can, all they would want to do is criticize you, or, do something to hurt you or offend you or send you off on the wrong track. And it makes it very, very difficult. It makes you want to, in a way, lose faith in humanity. But I think the way that we can sort of curb that sort of frustration is by saying, I don't want to be like them. No matter what they do to me, I don't want to be like them. I don't want to stoop to their level. I will continue doing what I want to do because this is my nature. It is their nature to be like that, then so be it. But that doesn't mean that I bring myself down and say, okay, I'm not going to help you then. Or, make things, makes things difficult for us if we then stoop down to their level. If we say, it's not my nature to be like that, and I will continue doing the best that I can for humanity. But that doesn't mean to say if you are sort of facing a very difficult individual, doesn't mean you keep banging your head on the wall trying to help them. Steer clear of them. Try and help the people who genuinely need it, who genuinely appreciate it. As Dad has said before, there is God in the tiger, but it doesn't mean you go and embrace the tiger. You keep your distance from the tiger. You don't go and do that. Make sure you sort of, the world is full of all kinds of people. If you can avoid those kind of people, then try and avoid them and try and have company with people who are genuinely uplifting and who appreciate what you are doing for them. And I guess that's the best that we can do, no matter what other people are doing. Make sure we don't bring ourselves down, trying to sort of be like, oh, and I'm not going to help anybody else. Vijay bhai?
I think that's very true, Sita. I mean, quite often we change our character, our innate nature for somebody else. And that just means you have lost, basically. You make the other person really won in that case. So you should avoid that. But I think one thing is true, what Jazz for YouTube said is, some people are truly toxic. If you go near them, they actually ruin your life. Forget you helping others. But I think the thing is, you have to help where you can. And every way, if there are people like that, sometimes better, you helping them more by staying away from them. Don't give them the energy they need to feed to make themselves better. So in that case, in a way, you're doing a positive by staying away from them. So you don't give them that, you don't feed them with that, the strength they need to do their whatever nasty thing they're doing. So everywhere you try and do best you can in different circumstances. But yes, so I think you can help other people. You don't have to go for that. So try and give that distinction. Is very important, right? And I think one thing we should be careful not to get worked up. It's quite easy to get worked up sometimes. Now, I'll give you my own experience. When I work for Twitter can be very, very, passionate. And I immediately switch it off. I know that this is not me. So this is the thing we have to be careful about. But I think you can cultivate in such a way that when people are toxic or people who are really coming against you, there are ways to say, okay, for this person, it's best that I help him best by not interacting with him. So it just hurts me and hurts him. So you have to be careful. But there's so much scope out there to help humanity, to help environment. We have got so many ways, we can't even one life left even feel a quarter of a small percentage of it. Let's work where we can and make the progress from that point.
Very well put. As Sri Ramakrishna would say, there is a God in a lion as well, but you don't go near them. So that is the cue, I guess. We take a next question from YouTube boss. He's saying, does Arya Samaj or Vivekananda believed in the God cannot take in reincarnation? As I read an article where it stated Vivekananda didn't believe that Krishna is incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vijay bhai?
Actually, I've read all the volumes of Vivekananda. I haven't heard that one. I think I haven't heard that, to be honest. Vivekananda always believed God exists in a multitude of ways and it's pluralistic in that sense. So I've never seen, I have to check that out, to be honest, but I've read all the 9 volumes. I don't recall, in biography, I recall seeing that idea. But I know for Arya Samaj, that's true, because in Arya Samaj, they believe only the Vedic scripts are actually the supreme authority. And that's something Dayananda Saraswati kind of really emphasized. And he's actually focused on the idea of the Purva Mimamsa, the idea of rituals, which is fair enough because it's a very ancient Vedic ritual where we say that we use, the idea of Havans, the idea of Brahmanas to link to higher beings. And that is fine. That's actually a very noble idea. And I think it works very well for a lot of people. Even we do it in all the samskars we do weddings. In that case, we use Havans to link to, higher ideas. And that's fine. But that is his belief. And we respect that. But I think of Vivekananda, I don't recall that. I know that, of course, Vivekananda focused on the idea of God in humanity. And he talked about all the gods and all the noble ideas of all the deities. So I don't think that's, in my view, I don't recall saying that. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. There's not much more I can add. I completely agree with Vijay. I've never come across that before. And as Vivekananda said, his whole life was divinity in humanity and the whole living kingdom, and that's what his ethos was.
Yes, Sitaben, Vivekananda said Ramakrishna is Avatar Varistaya. So if you didn't believe in Avatar, then how can he say that? So probably not true, that one. We take a next question from Alan Donsaji. He's saying how to educate youngsters about conversion to Abrahamic faiths. Christianity is almost dead in the West because of the rigid and regressive ideas. How to educate youngsters about conversion? See that one?
Yes, I think it's really important because, Hinduism is obviously a religion which never goes out to convert anybody because pluralism is so sort of embedded in our philosophy. So let everyone be. You just focus on your path and make spiritual progress and let them make spiritual progress on their path. But I think we have to be careful because there are people out there who will try and convert people from Hinduism because they see us as like a strange and weird religion, and their way is the right way, and they try and sort of try and persuade people away from Hinduism. I think the best sort of protection, as Dad has spent his entire life trying to do, is trying to educate young people and adults into exactly what Hinduism is all about. Because if we have a proper structured understanding of our own religion, then it gives us the strong armor that we need to fend off anyone who is coming to challenge Hinduism. When you get people who sort of say, oh, what kind of a weird religion is this with millions of gods and animal heads and all of that, and people who, little Hindus who are really worried and they say, oh, maybe my religion is weird, maybe I should convert. We don't want that situation to ever occur. And this is why we've got the Hindu Academy set up. This is why we're trying to educate people to be confident and strong in their religion, to say, you know why, this is why. And then they can fend off people who are trying to convert them. So education is the best tool that we have to try and stop people trying to convert us. Vijay?
I think that's very true, Sita. That's the key basis. Get a strong foundation of own religion. But I would say for all the elders who are out there, learn about other religions too. Because when they challenge you, you're ready. You know exactly what they're saying. And I'll be honest with you, I've caught out a lot of people like that. Yeah, and so you Hindus, you drink cow piss or think there's really rude things to you. But actually, when you tell them, by the way, did you know all in ancient times, all communities do that. There's actually a hadith in the Islamic tradition which says that the Prophet himself said, have some camel, you need to deal with your gas, stomach problems. So because it's got high content ammonia, it is used by all communities around the world, only India. So the thing is, if you're more knowledge about, the others, then you can challenge them. By the way, it's the same in yours. Then they be quiet. But they're quiet over, they're relying on our ignorance and our gullibility. So we have to be strong with the facts of knowledge. If you have the facts, then it's very hard to take you on. So it's good to learn all the facts about your own faith and be firm, and facts of other faiths as well. That helps you in a way to stop this.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai. We take a next question from Ian Donsaji.
Yeah.
He's saying, is Kundalini awakening scientific? So we in yoga and tantra theory practices there is this idea of Kundalini. And he's saying, is Kundalini awakening scientific? And the second question is, do all human animals have Kundalini? So can they also awaken it? Vijay Bhai.
It's a very, very powerful question. Look, the idea of Kundalini is something that's been very ancient. The idea of energy within us and different chakras is a kind of way to explain that. I can't say it is any empirical, physical, scientific kind of backing that I do not know. But this has been experienced of many, many great rishis of India. The idea of awakening energy within us and raising the energy at a higher level. That's what Kundalini is about. I mean, the rest is just a lot of, words and whatever. But the idea is, how do you awaken the energy within us to rise to the higher level, so we actually reach a state of higher living and higher enlightenment. That's the key idea behind Kundalini. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So, I mean, obviously along the spinal column, right in the center of the spinal column, there's like a hollow canal, which isn't used for the vast majority of living things. It sort of lies dormant. But during the sort of practices of yoga, for example, and breathing and mental disciplines, we're able to try and tap into that Kundalini, which can then awaken and kind of forces a passage through that thin canal. And when it does so, we kind of like get this sort of extrasensory perception. We're able to perceive things in a whole new light. And when people become enlightened, the energy sort of reaches the top, the brain. And that is when you sort of get that full blaze of enlightenment. I mean, that physiology, I think, is there. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but I think the physiology that is there in animals which have a kind of spine, there is that column. But obviously, animals only exist at the level of instinct. There's no intellect or rationality at that point. So really, it's only possible, I think, for human beings to sort of experience that, because we operate at one level above instinct, at the level of intellect, and we can then use our intellect to then try and awaken that Kundalini and experience the further level of consciousness where you get enlightenment.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben, Vijay Bhai. We're coming close to the hour. We'll take one or two more questions. Yes, so let me have a look at viewers' questions. So Thomas Jasper is saying, I'm a beginner in spirituality. I used to meditate on Krishna and used to consider him as my Ishtadev. But nowadays my mind constantly gets attracted to meditate on Mother Goddess. What should I do? Sitaben?
Follow your heart is what I would say. I mean, if you have that genuine in love for the Mother Goddess, then please do go on that way. But I think the important thing to remember is we have to, I guess, try not to waver too much, because it's a bit like sort of starting along one stream and then going back and starting again from scratch and going down another stream. So once we choose a path, try and sort of see it to its conclusion. But we have to obviously try and follow our heart as much as we can, and follow what you feel attracted to and what appeals to you. Jai Bhai?
I agree with you, absolutely. I mean, on a lighter heart, I remember Jai Bhai saying that, Mother Goddess are more cuddly, lovely, and men are more hairy. So go with the Mother Goddess if you like that. I leave it to you. But anyway, it's your choice. Yeah, there's no one way to it.
Yes, I think if you are focusing on one personality and then maybe you get to know more, or you try to learn more about Mother Goddess or some other personality, you can get really into them as well. So sometimes it can be a fine juggle in a way, but it's all fun, and hopefully you can learn and progress in that manner. Don't have to stick to one, I guess. One question, last question for today, is from YouTube Boss again. He's saying, can we say all Devi Devtas existed long ago, but all the stories have faded and Puranas are mere legends, minutely accurate sometimes, and fiction? Vijay Bhai?
Okay, this is a good question. I hope I don't offend anybody, but just to mention, a lot of these stories about Devi Devtas who are flying in the heavens with wielding all these powerful weapons, like nuclear kind of Brahmastra, whatever. Look, use your rational faculty. Is that really true? Yeah, it can't be. I mean, we don't have any evidence, no actual evidence. Actually, we do know that man did come from one woman called Lucy. That we know for sure because the DNA is mapped out. But I think the thing is, reading the Purans, we have to take them allegorically, get the message out of it, and look at the message. The message can be very powerful. But if you take it literally, then I think we will be in problems. So we have to be very careful. And in that sense, it's not, I would say, in my views, most likely fiction. Because the thing is, there may be cases, no doubt, where you have these evil people, good people, Devi, that's happened through history of humanity. But sometimes we exaggerate that at the level of Devis and Devatas, then of course it becomes, that doesn't become, but it can't be literally true. But the message in there, that's very powerful. And that is something we should learn from, not take it literally. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So a lot of these stories are called man-made scriptures for a reason, because They are not as a result of enlightenment. These are colourful stories created to help us feel attracted towards the idea of spirituality. And they're very useful for children to start feeling engaged with the idea of spirituality. So we have to make sure we don't take them as being literally true. But in terms of the reality of devas and devis and that kind of thing, perhaps they are real individuals. Perhaps they are, higher beings who do exist and, who are sort of in a way watching over us, maybe. Who knows? We have to, I guess, explore through meditation or whatever path we choose to see if there is any reality to it.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben Vijay. We'll take one more question since we have some time. So, I see in the news all the time, some wonderful new temple is being built here and there, and all these things happening. And we see poverty going on as well. Should Hindu temples have the facility to serve the humanity as well? And should all temples at least be serving free food to all? Sita Ben.
Yes, I mean, if it's possible, then yes, of course. I think because obviously some people love the idea of bhakti, they love the idea of thinking of God with form, and for them a temple is very important for making spiritual progress. But then we can't also ignore the other side of the equation where, Hinduism talks so strongly about this idea of God in humanity and living things. We can't ignore that side of the equation either. So I think it's wonderful to try as much as we can with our limited budgets or whatever limited resources we have to try and look at both sides of the equation. There is God in the temple, but more importantly, there is God in the millions of human beings out there in the world. And if we can do something to help them, then that is hopefully making some spiritual progress. It's helping us feel that unity behind all living things, which is what our scriptures have been talking about. So in a way, that's a practical way of being spiritual rather than sitting in a temple and worshipping a God, which there's nothing wrong with, but we shouldn't also ignore the humanity outside the temple that needs help. So ideally, we can try and do both. Vijay Bhai?
I think I agree. I mean, there's a place for temples as well. But Manish Bhai, I think I would say on a positive note that when I went to India last time, I've seen more and more temples running kitchens to allow pilgrims to eat free food. So it's happening. And also one good thing is that I know there was a very big temple in some of the villages where I come from. The temples, people go pray in the morning usually and the evenings. In the daytime, they're all empty. So the idea was to open nursery schools and use the temples to get children in, to help them, to give us education, get some more learning experience. And so there are people who are thinking in those positive lines. So in a way, we already have the idea of Nath Mandir in most temples, where you have a side temple which does extra activities. But in India as well, the idea is now coming before that how can we help these mandirs can run small like creche for children where parents can go and work. So the ideas are coming before. I think the modern generation is trying to change that idea. Temples are not just purely to be left empty and just go and pray and work out. How can you use that space for betterment of humanity? So it's happening, and I hope it progresses further.
That's so wonderful to hear, Vijay Bhai. Let's hope that long may it continue and expand it to hopefully all temples, and we serve God as well as serve humanity in all the temples. That would be one heck of a goal that if we get there, it would be wonderful to achieve. Thank you everyone for joining today. Wonderful sessions. We apologize if we have not been able to take your question today. Hopefully join us next week for that question with the questions. We finish with today's session with a prayer. The wonderful one. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukh Bhag Bhavet. Om Santi Santi Santi. Om, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may no one be subject to misery. Peace be upon you. Thank you very much everyone for joining. Hopefully see you next week. Thank you.